facilitate this conversation. We have a really interesting panel, each one with a very different perspective. So I'm going to introduce the panel and get started. To my left is Margaret Ishida. She's the director of the Empire State STEM Learning Network, State University of New York. Margaret Ishida directs the Empire State STEM Learning Network, formed in June 2010 to build the capacity of local communities to create and institute innovative and sustainable STEM schools, policies, programs, and platforms and partnerships across New York State in order to improve the college and career readiness of all students. Empire STEM is now under the stewardship of the State University of New York in partnership with Patel, following its incubation by Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. In the middle, here to her left, we have Michael Tucker, President of the Center for Economic Growth. Michael Tucker was appointed the President of the Center for Economic Growth in March 2007. CEG is a regional economic development organization serving New York's Tech Valley and promotes economic expansion through strategic initiatives to grow local companies, attract new investment, and prepare communities for future growth. Mr. Tucker has extensive experience in business, economic development, and energy-related initiatives. So a strong business perspective. And on my far left is Joe Dragone, Superintendent of Schools, Ballston Spa Central School District. Dr. Dragone has extensive experience in both urban and suburban district leadership. In addition to leading various initiatives, he has led school and district improvement planning, commitment to 21st century skills, and we're expecting to hear a lot about that, and a recent $49 million facilities project. His ability to create partnerships with business, industry, and higher education has created alternative resource engines and unique program opportunities. So, here we are. And at the end of the first day, we've all had tremendous experiences today, interacting with technology, new ideas, and yet we're still struggling in our schools and our communities to embrace this. So what I did was a sort of contextual place to start. I selected a few headlines from various publications, and everyone has something to say about 21st century education and what we should or shouldn't be doing. So here's just a few. In the 21st century, it's not enough to leave no child behind. We need to help every child get ahead. How can we bring our schools out of the 20th century? North Carolina is now requiring arts integration in their teacher programs. How can we recognize true learning? Is algebra necessary? That was a full-length article in Last. You read that? Yeah, I read it too. And the last one on my list, where are the jobs and how can changes in education help? And in the midst of all of this, I just want to make a point about some projects that we've been working on with the community to help address the dropout crisis. I'm sure many of you are aware of the challenges that our communities are facing. Our project is called Miracle Graduate, and we've been partnering with schools and organizations and businesses to raise awareness about what's going on in the region here. Many of the schools struggle with this. The graduation rates in our region range from 47.8% way up to 99% and everything in between. So I'd like to begin the discussion by thinking about those many aspects and hearing from each of you what your vision is. What really, from your perspective, what are the hallmarks of 21st century education? What does it look like? Who wants to go first? I think they're tossing it to you, Joe. Your turn.
So everybody's looking at me. I will WMHT, of course, our development, all the partners that make this possible for today and tomorrow. So it's a tremendous opportunity for everybody. I hope you enjoy your 2 days while you're here. And a shameless plug before I start, I'm going to get all the pleasantries out of the way. First, I have 2 teachers presenting tomorrow, our video game design class. So if you are here at 11:15, they'll be presenting the work that we do in our high school. That's co-taught between an art teacher and a technology teacher in collaboration with Mildred Ellie for college credit. We've been offering that course for almost, this is our 3rd year, I think, and I'll use that as a segue about vision. And this is my 4th year in the district. I started in August 2008, and we have 9 graduation competencies that we subscribe to as part of the district's mission of what we want our graduates to look like beyond kids who can take and pass math tests and English tests. The reality is there's a pretty strong dichotomy between policy and what communities and, more importantly, business expect skills that students leave high school with. In 2010, the American Manufacturing Association did a survey about relevant skills that they feel that students should be able to have, and how ill prepared K-12 does, as well as post-secondary education with regard to collaboration, critical thinking, communication, and creativity. So these 4 C's, which are really the stronghold of the partnership for 21st century skills, are something that we holistically support. We've been moving forward with assessment opportunities in those areas, trying to embed the work that we do, and obviously there's a relationship between skills, authentic learning, and the ability or the opportunity to take really pragmatic classroom learning, which you've been hearing about all day and you hear about all day tomorrow, and making it real for kids and doing this parallel content skills opportunity. 3 years ago now, it was a real eye-opener. We took several 20-plus staff members down to Vicarious Visions because we wanted to learn what collaboration looks like. We wanted to learn about design. We wanted to learn about that thought. And that really speaks to the vision going forward. We work hard to break down silos. And again, it's right from the board through K-12 as we continue trying to move forward to provide these different kinds of opportunities to meet the needs of the 21st century. The 21st century is very colloquial, so I keep laughing about that. It's 2012. I feel like in 2025, we're still going to be saying, well, 21st century, we always say that boat left 10 years ago. And it's pretty far from the dock, and everybody's swimming. Some people have one leg on the dock and one leg in the boat. But there's a lot of holistic catching up to do, especially in New York State, to embed this type of learning to provide our students with the best opportunity for post-secondary and for workforce opportunities.
So I'm going next, Margaret Ishida. I'd also like to thank the organizers, but I'd also like to thank all of you for taking advantage of this incredible opportunity to participate in some professional development where, I just have to ask, how many of you are in districts where your superintendent would be able to talk about the gaming part of your curriculum in such a way as this superintendent did? Okay, this is a few. Excellent. This is my vision. My vision is a future when you all raise your hands. Because the system of education has contemporized, if that's even a word, where our system of education has caught up with now the mid-21st century in such a way that we're preparing all of our students for success in lots of different kinds of career paths, from the earliest ages all the way through. And as part of my background, you may remember that I'm at the State University of New York, but I'm a refugee from high tech. So I started my career as a summer intern at the Xerox Corporation out in Silicon Valley, working with prototypes of what became Apple Computer a few years later. And then subsequently was acquired into the IBM company where, 10, 15 years ago, we were looking at massively multiplayer online gaming as techniques to enable our customers to learn about our business, our employees to learn about the skills that they needed to do their job. So, this is a very real and relevant area that you're learning about. And kudos to all of you for being here and for the collaborative learning. So my vision is one that's shared by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people across the state of New York. And it's the idea that we need to to revamp the way we need to reform our system of education so it truly is a system. So it embraces inquiry at the very early ages. So it embraces all of the learning that happens out of school, after school, not necessarily all within the traditional four walls of school. Such places as public broadcasting and all that WMHT and your sister or brother stations do as just another example. That it embraces the idea of learning and earning, making money at the same time. That it embraces the T and E in STEM and the A. Whether or not we call it STEAM or STEM or what have you, we really kind of think in our network about STEM as a Trojan horse for change. To be good as a scientist or a technologist or an engineer or a mathematician, whether it's the 21st century or the 20th, you have to be able to be a lifelong learner. You have to be able to keep up with all these changes that are happening. Most of the jobs I ever had in the corporate world never existed before I took them. Maybe there's a trend there. But you need to be able to work with people very different from you. You need to have some depth, whatever that may be. And then the need for these kinds of skills, interdisciplinary skills, problem-solving skills, collaborative skills, collaborating with people very different from you. It's important in virtually every field, whether you decide to become an educator, you decide to become an artist or a musician, you decide to go into high tech, many, many, many different industries. So, you know, that vision is one where every child has access and has a chance of success. So I'm out to solve world hunger. How about you?
It's hard for me to believe that we're sitting here in the early years of the 21st century, all as pioneers, but I think that's where we are. And I think that representing the business community, I'm very honored to be here. I too want to thank Toby and the organizers and all of you who are here. I often have the opportunity to speak to teachers, and it's always a little bit disconcerting since I never got more than 85% on the test, but I think it's kind of proof of the pudding as to why we're here. The Center for Economic Growth, as was mentioned, is a 11-county regional economic development organization comprised of members of business, government, education, and nonprofit sectors. And our members are very, very committed to the partnerships that we have been able to develop over the last several years with Margaret State University, with Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, with our school superintendents such as Joe and others, and also the opportunity to work with organizations like WMHT. And we're fortunate to be here in the capital region because we have the ability to have a prototype laboratory experiment. Not only are we very fortunate in having recently, over the last several years, attracted some very major employers to the region, IBM, Global Foundries, GE. We think about the fact that GE has invested over $1 billion in the capital region in the last 3 or 4 years. Global Foundries just announced a $2.3 billion expansion of their $4.3 billion project in Malta. And you look at the work that IBM has done with Rensselaer and the state-of-the-art with the supercomputer. We're doing very, very well here. And our concern as a business leadership organization is that if we don't have the pipeline to sustain the workforce for companies that will want to be here because others are here. We've seen some of those companies come here already. That this will have been a one-time wishful thinking. It'll be a one-time experiment that just putters out. So for us to be able to leverage the tremendous public-private investment, the taxpayer dollars, the private sector dollars that have brought us to this point in several technology industry clusters, such as clean energy, nanotechnology, and the semiconductor industry, biotechnology, information technology, advanced materials, homeland security. If we're going to be able to truly leverage those assets into the future, we need a workforce. And that workforce trickles down from the underemployed, the unemployed, to the four-year students, to the community college students, to the K-12 system. And the K-12 system is only able to be as strong as it can be if we're looking at early childhood education as well. So our members have, our board has made a commitment as the next transformational opportunity in the capital region to work on workforce development in 21st century education initiatives. Through partnership with Margaret and the State University of New York, we have been able to pull together partnerships here in the region and to serve as a virtual hub for the Empire STEM Network. We had a launch back several months ago at WMHT, where we launched the Tech Valley STEM Smart Alliance, which will be moving forward with much more visibility amongst the educational, business, and government community in the fall. We also have been working with Global Foundries on a laboratory model where we will attempt to identify opportunities for teachers and students to try new things. And because we're in the capital region and because we know where to find the chancellor where she has coffee and the state education commissioner where he has lunch, we have the ability where you don't have it here in Rochester, Buffalo, or Long Island. If you want to meet with high-level state officials to talk about policy matters, you've got to come the night before. You've got to hope that there's not crisis du jour and meet with the next available deputy in the morning. And we have that opportunity here. I was fortunate 2 weeks ago to meet with Patrick Lyons and Richard Iannuzzi at the New York State United Teachers. We met with Tim Kremer at the School Board Association. And we've been able to put together partnerships focusing on our geographic footprint. The 4 BOCES districts that serve the greater capital region. It results in a 13-county footprint with 111 school districts, 344 building principals. So we're hoping to begin that process of getting the business community engaged to help the school districts and the teachers understand what skill sets are needed to build this 21st century economy.
Thank you. So the visions are strong. I think we should take a moment and talk about what the challenges are. What are the challenges and what really needs to change to have these visions become reality?
If I could start, when I emigrated from the corporate world to the world of higher education to lead this work on STEM networks, it was just a couple of years ago when we started out by doing with support from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Battelle, which Battelle is the largest independent R&D organization in the world. We started with conversations in the 10 economic regions, so actually we did 8 of the 10 in New York State. And when we started, there was this big pushback. The pushback saying, we've had these talks before. What's different? Why should we come back together? And, we're pretty quickly, I think, able to start to overcome some of those issues by, 1, bringing together the data, but 2 is to, employ some social science to study the behaviors of people as they engage in these conversations, as well as the content of the discussion. And we took seriously some of the comments that said, we know what to do. These are not new recommendations. Recommendations about changing policies around seat time, changing policies around assessments, changing policies to really align standards with assessments, et cetera, about programs that need to have some evidence that they work, yet to be innovative and not always have to, demand a 20-year longitudinal study before you try something, because frankly, the world changes so rapidly than that. About public-private partnerships, where it's not about give me money and then I'll partner with you, but rather, what's in it for me? What is our mutual interest between business, between K-12 education, a community college, a 4-year college, philanthropists, community-based organizations, to bring people together in communities, as Mike is helping us lead here in the capital region, to come to grips with what the realities are of the performance or not of students all the way through the pipeline, and then to take advantage of all of the assets that we do already have in place and get to this common sort of vision and understanding what the gaps are so that you can then go together faster together. So we actually have now launched regional hubs where communities are coming together on common cause, common goals that are specific to their community, but that all have some kind of common themes. And those themes are around professional learning opportunities for educators from K through 20 and beyond, around authentic experiences for students. It might be after school, out of school, in addition to the traditional, whatever traditions these days in the classroom. And around, frankly, marketing communications, around building the image and awareness in the communities around us. Because there are a lot of stereotypes, a lot of misunderstanding about how well our students schools are really doing about what the job market really looks like, and about what STEM is for heaven's sakes. And again, for our network, we talk about STEM in New York State, and we need more people to talk about STEM as the interdisciplinary teaching and learning of those disciplines beyond the disciplines themselves.
I think what we see too is in terms of the challenges are different. The urban schools, the suburban schools, the rural schools have different issues that need to be looked at and addressed. There's some common statewide issues. Hopefully the Governor's Commission on Education Reform is beginning to address those. We encourage you all to participate in those hearings as they move throughout your region of the state. But I think that those of you in this room know clearer than anyone. The challenge is each child in each desk, in each seat. And I see from the business community, while we need to engage some of the leadership and of the individuals that I mentioned earlier, it's got to be a grassroots effort. This has to be where we're getting input and guidance from those of you who are in the classroom, who know what the issues are and what the obstacles are, and what small, minor solutions might exist for you to be able to experiment. And then we have to be able to ramp up what you've experienced and what you are doing in your classrooms to address those issues, and then be able to use them as prototypes not only in your own schools, but in your own districts and throughout this region, and hopefully then go statewide and national. So while there are challenges there, we need to have the attention of policymakers and the so-called decision makers. We need the input and guidance from those of you who are teaching our children every day, spending more time with our children than perhaps we as parents are able to do.
Joe, if you want to quickly answer, I want to leave time for Q&A.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just two quick perspectives. One is from my chair. There's change and rate of change, first of all. Second is the conflict that we are currently in K-12 experiencing in policy versus the demands that we're hearing from colleagues in higher education. New York State is not a partnership for 21st century skills state. They're not affiliated with national organizations, so we don't wholeheartedly endorse the tenets of this national agenda and the national partners. So we live, and I'm currently experiencing, and anybody that is currently in K-12, a clear dichotomy between the Regents Reform agenda and a balance, I think is the right word, with preparing kids in this true college and career readiness. There's these other pieces that with my colleagues in business and industry that we continue to go back to all the time. And then you have to keep that balance. And now more than ever, we need strong, courageous leadership in K-12 to be able to use that lens to balance that dichotomy. If not, the ship is going to sail in the other direction. We're going to lose sight on being able to provide these other kinds of opportunities for our kids.
Thank you. Questions from the audience? Comments? Yes.
Three words: mastery, not memory. And so when you think about some of the advocacy, it's hard to do and it takes a long time and it may or may not take. But that's one piece of what we work on is the advocacy that we move beyond memorization to get to mastery of how you
Margaret's point, I think, and maybe if you reflect on this or look back to it, it's really about design principles and how what design principles you use for mastery learning incorporates these different pieces of curriculum, performances, assessments. In our clean technology, sustainable industry, early college, high school, one of our design principles based on mastery learning are the authentic demonstrations. And ultimately, we design those first and go content backwards. Part of that program also is the kids, frankly, get the content themselves. They all have their laptops. They have top choices by the teachers, where they go through our collaborative learning environment and access to resources and those kinds of things. But the reality is the time spent together is the time spent learning and applying the concepts versus a lot of quote unquote, better word, regular classroom activities. And between the co-teaching and the co-mingling of the content and using nonfiction, a lot of nonfiction, science-based literature, et cetera, I think we're seeing strength, but it's by design. And I really think that is square one. We spent a lot of time peeling that back with some wonderful national partners who helped us, Teaching Institute of Excellence for STEM, the PAST Foundation, partnering anthropology with science and technology. We've had great opportunity to start at square one and say, who do we want this to look like? And it wasn't by doing a pacing calendar. It was, we want to study the effect of the population on the Cape Roads watershed. We want to do PSAs about renewable energy. We want capstone projects about redeveloping downtown Mechanical, Waterfront, downtown Village, Ballston spot. Okay, what are we going to do to get there? So it's utilizing the content different, also understanding that access is a whole different ballgame now. It's not there's not only one person in the world in the room that knows what's going on. So that's something that's really important as well.
I'm always at a glass half full, but actually I spent this morning in another part of the city, and I was getting messages from Joe about how great this community was, and I was disappointed because I had to be in this meeting, but it was a good meeting. And it's in one of our STEM hubs in another region, but where I get encouraged because the district leaders and the partners in these STEM hubs, for example, are changing culture. And they're working hard to change that culture of fear. But you have to get to a critical mass of enough people who are able to, as leaders, and as people within the districts, are able to, overcome some of those issues. And this very topic came up where the curriculum person for the district counted out and said she had spent 29 days in Albany for training over the last year. They were unscheduled at the beginning of last year. That's not unique, is it? So that's a very, very challenging. But what the district and the districts in the STEM network are working to do is not to pile on more, but to help develop the skills and capabilities and to take advantage of some tools that are being developed not only in New York, but thanks to the Common Core by things like literacy, design collaborative, and other kinds of techniques that enable teachers to be able to develop their own curriculum and have some of that creativity, even with all of these requirements from the state.
see the structure of the STEM Hub and the other initiatives that we're working on here in the capital region in partnership with many, is the opportunity to get those vignettes, those stories that you told, and to then take each of those one at a time. If we can get 20 of them from 30 districts, then we have some critical mass to begin the process of identifying solutions to those issues and to have those dialogue and discussion with people who we have the opportunity to do because we're looking.
10% is the number.
Yeah, and it's, make no bones about it. I mean, it's our job to hand out caps and gowns. I mean, that's the reality. And I have no problem in talking about that. The question is, how do we find a production function? And I've been saying forever, and this goes back to the old jargon, is with the AIS regulations, all this stuff we've been dealing with forever. If someone doesn't do well in math, the answer has been just to give them more math. It's always more of the same. We say less about more about different. And there's no reason why you still can't make sure that you are increasing the caps and gowns you're handing out. What we're saying is you go about that a different way. And I think English is a great example. Let's face it, by the end of freshman year, the kids know the critical lens. It doesn't matter if they take it freshman year or if they take it when they're juniors. So how do we expand that? How do we integrate that? And look for different opportunities. So it's a culture, as Margaret said, it's a repository of practice and how we can shift that, and it's different thinking. Our world is on the agrarian calendar and a manufacturing model, and you have to be strong about how you look at that and how you can provide different opportunities within those parameters.
And if the student has the ability to learn, they can learn the job when they get on the site. No one's going to let you take a $50 million semiconductor tool without a year of training once you get there. So they're more interested in finding individuals who have the capacity to learn, the ability to work together, critical thinking, the willingness to raise your hand if you make a mistake, and all of the things that are so critical to ensuring that there's a dynamic in your classroom. And the core competencies will come. You have to learn those.
It's not an easy lift. There's no secret sauce and there's no magic potion. I mean, this is extremely difficult work. And for people in the field, you know that. We're still, we were just chatting earlier, the first 2 weeks of September, we're going to be testing because we have to align with the new regulations. We're doing K-8, we're doing online. We have all the pre-assessments already created and rolled out for the high school. We added a half-day conference day to review data, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, it's all over here. How do you manage that and still, as a school district, what I always come back to is stay true to our mission. Our mission isn't to keep giving more tests. Our mission is to provide an excellent education that maximizes the potential of every student in collaboration with family and community. So how do we do that and still manage all these other issues?
I think we have time for one more question. Yes.
I am both fortunate and unfortunate in that while my school does not treat teachers very well, they're giving me enough leeway to, I've had my principal say, great ideas will do. And the CEO say, great ideas will do. But then when I try to get the assistants to do anything, the computers don't function for the school. Integrate these new things that I've got this year and last year. I get either no help or resistance. So I'm left sort of flapping the trees. What that allows me to do is, screw your bureaucracy. I'll do it myself, because I'm getting no help. What do I do now? Because I have some things I picked up from computers I feel like I'm staying in the store. So is there anybody that has a computer that they can get my school? I don't know what to do. So where do I look? Where do I go from? There's a company that says, we have two computers that are good, we're replacing them. We don't want them. Where can I find these resources where I can get stuff from our schools? So I can say, look, there's more people. Here's what I did. Now we can help it.
There's one effort, so this is a big challenge. One exciting thing is as you're in gaming and by extension social media and so forth, there are ever increasing numbers of places where you can go online, where more and more national organizations as well as some of the state level are trying to match needs to
part of the Center for Economic Growth is the Chief Executives Network for Manufacturing here in the Capital Region, which is 75 small and medium manufacturers. So the opportunity to have collaborative partnerships, adopt a school, adopt a classroom, adopt a teacher, will create, which is part of the initiative that we're rolling out here, will engage the business community to be supportive, to put pressure on the school board to do it themselves for you. Because I think Margaret said earlier, where do you find the commonality of win-win? The business community knows that they're going to be able to get the type of student they need out of the community college or four-year school after you've prepared them, and college and community college doesn't have to spend the money at the same level that they're spending today in remediation and focus. That partnership will begin to pay off. And if it doesn't pay off exactly to my company and your classroom, it will spread like wildfire through social media and other vehicles, that it will rise and lift all boats. And so if I'm engaged with you in your school or your classroom as a business owner, the fact that others will see that as an example and a prototype, we believe will help sustain some of those problems and move the ball forward. And we're looking to do virtual videos. You can't take every kid to a field trip. You can't. You want to have technical career awareness campaigns, which we've done with BOCES and the workforce investment boards in the 11-county region. So there's more we can then do an example of what you're talking about, then get it on the website to show others that this is what we're doing with you. I think you're going to get people interested because the business community really wants to start to see a shift in training, preparation, education of their future workforce.
And we're seeing pockets of this starting to happen already. We haven't been at this very long when you think about the magnitude of the social engineering that we're trying to do with all of this. So be noisy, don't give up. And I mentioned 10% earlier, just up the hill here at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, some of the cognitive science did some research they published last summer that showed that, or their research indicated that once you get to about 10% of the people in a large enough group, then people will start to, that's the tipping point for people to change their minds. So if you're trying to advance an agenda or to change the culture about something, that 10% is a little bit of a magic number, but there's some data behind it. So be noisy, don't give up, and we're trying to help.
And also, I think the opportunity of each of you to mentor a young teacher, and for us to be able to take this message into our colleges that are educating and training the teachers of the future.
Just from a practical standpoint, go to Best Buy website. They have a rotating grant thing that's low through, let me get like $1,000, so at least you can get something. Target has something, Sears, JCPenney. So check the big, the chains like that. Like as a Best Buy, you can just apply right online. It's a very simple process. They like to support those kinds of things. Say, I'm doing this in my classroom. And then go and check some of the vendors, go to HP and Sidewell. A lot of times they have recycled stuff. If they have a project in particular, like this.
So, we're just about finished. We're already a little over our time, which is great. I bet we can all keep on talking about it. Before we totally end, I want a quick headline. I started with headlines. Each of you give us a quick headline in closure, 5 words. And then I'll say thank you.
Okay, I'll do 3, just do it.
Lightning. Onward and upward.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mixer and pockets with little arrows on the sidewalk heading over there, and we're going to do a tour of our studios. People have asked about it. Our DVD is like 3 blocks over, or just 2 blocks for Douglas. So if anybody has any fun, and it's a game studio, and the pockets.
Somebody must bring on somebody on site. Not like hours. Oh, she said that early next week's going to be busier. Yeah. So I was like, Dragone, because